Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Feeling Lighter podcast. I don't know why I always look around when I answer. I'm like looking right and left and everything.
No one's here but us.
It's okay. So, Ben's right there. He's to my left. I'm saying hi to Ben. If you don't know it, we have this incredible team, Ben, Connor, Vaughn, that makes all of our videos. So shout out to them.
Shout out.
Dr. Lisa, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing good. You know, the holidays are coming, and we really wanted to take an episode to help people with some strategies, give you all some tools to make sure that when the holidays show up, you can really still show up for yourself and maybe transform an experience that's not so great into an experience that's a little bit better, at least, right? Because they say that, you know, if you want to prove your mindfulness, if you want to prove how Zen you are, go home for the holidays, right?
Yeah, you'll be tested for sure.
Real fast, right?
This is just a busy time of year for both of us. We have our birthdays, and then it's like instantly the holidays and the start of a new year. So it can be a lot of stress. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so, you know, when it comes to the holidays, I think the number one thing that people struggle with is their dynamics with their family, right? The family dynamics. And don't worry, we'll talk about some other things like the food stuff and everything like that comes up throughout the holidays too. But I want to touch on this one first because a lot of stress comes from, you know, before you even get there, worrying about what's going to happen, while you're there, feeling like you're back in your trauma loops and then leaving and then getting upset and resentful about those experiences. Have you had that experience before?
A little bit. But I have some strategies that kind of keep me from there.
Well, drop in. Tell us what that strategy is. Yeah. So
well,
when you're there, what happens?
A couple seasons ago, we had a guest on who is one of my dearest friends, Nedra Tawwab. And, you know, she is the boundaries expert. And I learned very early from her in our friendship that boundaries are so important in engaging with people, especially those obligatory relationships, you know, like your family. But the biggest point that I learned from her, and I haven't had to do this myself directly, but nobody is entitled to your time or your space. And so
Go. Say that again.
Nobody is entitled to your time or your space. So the reality is, I know that sometimes we want to go home for the holidays, but I just want to be very clear. You do not have to go home for the holidays. If it's not something you want to do, or there's not some urging or, you know, desire within you, it can be off the table. I'm here for strategies to get through it, for sure. But I like people to know that they have the permission to not go or to alter how they go. Like maybe you go right before the holiday and get your time with your certain people, and then you dip out. Like, you have these options available to you, and you can exercise your autonomy. And that's one of the things I learned directly from Nedra. Fortunately, when I go home for the holidays, it's not the same scenario where I need you know, that much support. But I just like people to know that you don't have to go. You really don't. You don't. It's not a requirement. It's not mandatory.
That's a good starting point. It's just giving permission to realize that it's a choice.
It's a choice.
This is a choice, and you have a choice from the start. If you decide to go, and this is where I'm going to take the other side of the coin. If you decide to go, consider this a spiritual growth practice.
Absolutely.
Consider this a spiritual growth practice, because you will get rubbed the quote-unquote wrong way, which I'm going to argue is actually the right way that you need to grow. Because remember, if somebody rubs us the wrong way, we're not accepting them, which means that something inside of us isn't being accepted all the way, right? Maybe. You're always taking that side of things.
Maybe.
All right? So,
some
but
people
you can
just suck. I just want to say that.
Yeah, people suck. That's true. That's true. But you can also just not let it get to you.
Absolutely.
Right? So going back to that, you can make the choice to not go, right? We're giving you permission to say, you know what, this year I'm going to do these things that I like instead of doing those things that I feel obligated to do. You don't have to feel obligated to do it.
Yeah.
You know, what you're saying, and I want to just repeat it so that people really understand, is you can also say, I'm coming over for dessert.
Yep.
I'll be there from 7 to 8 or 7 to 9. I'll have some dessert with you, and then I'll head out of there. And just prep yourself in advance. This is probably what's going to, I mean, you know what's going to happen.
You know
already.
what's going to happen. You know these people.
There's going to be drunk Uncle Steven, and there's going to be, you know, whatever's in your life, right? And you're just going to have to show up and just accept. And again, this is the spiritual practice that I'm talking about here, is when you go to a situation like this, why suffering is created is because we think that they should change.
Yeah.
We think that things should be different, right? And I've been saying this more and more lately, but the easiest way to have a happier life is to love what you've already got.
Yep.
Even if it's drunk Uncle Steven, right? Sorry to all the Stevens out there. I don't want that name come out of my mouth, you know?
I don't have an Uncle Steven, but...
But you get my point, right? Is is if we go in there and expect things to be different, we are going to be disappointed.
Absolutely.
People don't change unless they want to change. Mm-hmm. But if we go in there expecting things to be the same and realizing that we have to cultivate acceptance, compassion, forgiveness, and maybe take ourselves off of our soapbox there for a second, thinking that we know what's best for everybody, then we might actually be able to treat this as a practice in acceptance and love, right? Can we love people for who they are? Right? And not go in there and say, every time this person says this to me, it triggers me in this way. Okay, maybe that's a gift. Maybe that triggers something that needs examining. Maybe if you examine that trigger next holiday season, you'll go back there and they'll say that trigger and you say, you know what, I dealt with that trigger. This doesn't affect me anymore.
Absolutely.
I really look at life like that when it comes to my closest relationships is when I notice myself after the fact, by the way, not in the moment. I want to be clear, right? I am by no means a guru in this. When I notice myself after the fact, after I've lost it and I've gotten to these gnarly dynamics or whatever, I go, oh, the reason why I freaked out was because that piece was still something I got to deal with, right? And until I can show up in pure self-love all of the time, then I got work to do, right? And I will never be able to do that work.
I was going to say, so we always got work to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I will never be able to do that work alone.
No.
Right? So it's okay to take a break. I want to be clear. It's okay to take a break. It's also okay to know when somebody's just like so toxic that you just don't want any part of it. They don't have to be the thing that triggers your spiritual growth, right? Someone else can be the thing. It could be a little more mellow. And maybe that someone else will be willing to work through this with you and give you a better experience rather than somebody you're like, I got to accept this person for who they are. They're never going to change, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the process. All those things are important.
It is. It's part of the process. And everybody has different family dynamics. I just want to leave space for understanding that you will have people that you spend time with that, mildly annoy you, that mildly trigger or activate you, that remind you of some past trauma. But you also might have people, around or in your family dynamic that have, inflicted a lot of trauma on you or abused you in some way. And so, you really do have to know for yourself. Like me and Tyler cannot tell you like, 100%. Oh, go and push through and get some spiritual, or don't go. And like, you really have to decide that for yourself.
That. Please don't take if you go, it's a spiritual growth thing for like, I've got to go face this demon today.
Yeah, because you're not always ready for that, right? And there are times, I'll be honest, there are times when it is good to go and confront something, but you are the only person who gets it. We tell people all the time, you're the expert of your body. You're the expert of your psyche and who you are. And so you don't put yourself in scenarios that you're not prepared for, that are too hurtful or painful. Those are, probably the scenarios when you opt out, like just for safety for your own self. So it will look different for everybody. But, just in general, if you have people in your family dynamic or people that you're going to bump into, that Uncle Steve or Aunt Sue or whoever, you can prepare yourself by, arming yourself with some very firm boundaries. Some of these boundaries you can communicate beforehand. Some of them you don't have to communicate. That can happen right in the moment, or you can know with it. But your boundaries are for you, to be clear. I know sometimes we think of boundaries as like rules for the person, but your boundaries are for you. So it's like if Aunt Sue makes 2 comments about my body when I'm home, I'm going to leave. Yeah. I'm going to leave. I'm going to excuse myself from the space because I don't want to deal with it. And it's toxic for me. Yeah. Or it could be if Uncle Steven makes a comment about how many, plates I've gotten, I'm going to cuss him out. That can be your boundary. If you want it. If you want to have that discussion, if you want to use it as an opportunity to educate and stand up for yourself, I fully support that as well. But you get to decide what it looks like. It might be leaving, removing yourself. It might be redirecting, changing the conversation. It might be educating or standing up for yourself. Whatever that looks like for you, whatever feels most natural or you feel most ready for, that's how we want you to take it. So figure out what works for you. It's going to be different for all of us. in every different setting.
I love that you said that boundaries are for you, not for the other people. I mean, the expectation is you want them to follow it, but there's also there's a consequence to it. And the consequence is not something that they have to do.
No.
It's something that you have to do.
Absolutely.
So it's almost like we're pre-thinking what could potentially happen. What are the things that I feel like aren't appropriate or healthy for me? And then I would highly suggest making sure that you communicate that to whoever needs to be communicated to and prepare for that conversation. Communicate it kindly.
Right.
Because it's really easy to get swept up in the dialogue. You can come in there and say, oh, you could tell your mom, hey, every time, Uncle Steve says these things about my plates. And then she said, well, sometimes you do have some extra plates. And then it could just be like a disaster, right?
It can be.
So I always go to the nonviolent communication dialogue whenever I have something to work through. And it goes a little something like this, right? When Uncle Steve says this, it makes me feel this. And my boundary in this circumstance is that if Uncle Steve does this, whatever you say, once, twice, 3 times, then I'm gonna whatever the boundary is, right? So you can mad lib that thing if you want, take it with you to that conversation, and hopefully it'll serve you as you meet up with your family and get triggered, right?
Absolutely.
I think the biggest part about this section, because I do want to talk about other things over the holidays that I really want people to remember, is like you have choice. You have choice both in whether you show up or not, in the boundaries you set or not, and whether your goal is to set and hold boundaries or maybe just accept.
Accept, yeah.
You have lots of different choices. And remember, if you get triggered, one of my closest friends always says this, everything works better with space. So if you're there and you get triggered, don't take your stuff and throw it right back and make everything worse. Pause. You can literally say, pause, stop in your head.
Time out.
Walk somewhere else.
Yep.
Take 10 deep breaths and say, what's really going on here, right? And then decide. What do you need to do? Do you need to leave and say, I've had a great time, see you later, and be kind, right? Or come back, make that choice for yourself. But just anytime we feel that trigger, and the way you know this is because you're not being constructive, you're moving towards destructive, right? You got to pause. You got to take a break. If you don't, you're just going to look back the next day and you're going to regret it. Don't get me wrong. I got a black belt in this. That's the only reason I know. Right?
Oh, that's funny. I was thinking about like a black belt and actually fighting because I'm thinking about like a...
Yeah, right? I got a black belt and fighting verbally, right?
Beating somebody's ass. No. Yeah, I agree with that totally. The pause is an opportunity for you to regulate your nervous system and make decisions that make the most sense for you. And that way we're not as reactive, right? I'm not allowing someone to disturb my peace and take me from the position that I want to maintain. Because if you're going home for the holidays, I hope the understanding is that you're going because you want to create memories. There are people there that you do want to interact with and see, and you're hoping to get something good out of it. I would strongly caution you to make the decision to not go if you don't have anything to look forward to in that return home. If you have issues with everyone, or if everyone, is on you and antagonizing, that just doesn't feel safe to me. So I would strongly urge you to not go. So if you are going, then that means there's something there for you to hone in on that's positive. And I just want you to be mindful about creating the space for that thing. Like, even if it's coming, like I said earlier, and maybe it's you really want to get some one-on-one time with your mom or your dad, if they're getting older, or a sister or cousin. Maybe you come a day early or hours early and you spend some like concentrated time with that person. That can sort of like fill you up, kind of fill up your little love cup, right? So you feel good. And then you go into maybe the larger group setting where you're going to have a few antagonists that are going to be more stressful. But now you are armed with a lot of love and a lot of care and a lot of support. And they just seem like nothing. It's like it can roll off your shoulder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're not walking into a space like super defensive and ready to fight and ready to go. Nothing about that is super healthy. So whatever it is that you can do to work it out so that you get filled up and that you get what you need and that you get the real benefit of going home, do that. Do that thing.
Do that. Well, this is bringing me to the second thing I really wanted to talk about. Before I get there, I want everybody to imagine something for a second. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. If you're sitting there and you have the chance, you can pause for a second. Just close your eyes and like take a deep breath into your belly and just like relax for a second. And I want you just to like imagine like someone in your life that you deeply love, and they are burned out. They are struggling, and they're like, I need support. what would you offer those people, in the same circumstances, these holidays, right? You'd be like, hey, I got you. I'll take care of this for you. You go take some time for yourself, right? Imagine that person you love, all right? Now come back to the moment here. And what Dr. Lisa just said is, when your cup is full, you can pour into others. You can also tolerate others a lot more when your cup is full. And yet the second thing I wanted to talk about today is that the holidays are a time of year where many people drain themselves. They don't pour into themselves. They pour into everyone else. And why is it that that person you just imagine, whoever it was, maybe it's your kid, your partner, your family, your best friend, whoever it was, why is it that it's so easy to think about showing up for them and it's so hard to show up for you? Well, this holiday season, what I would love to challenge you to do is remember to put yourself first.
Absolutely.
Put yourself first. And I was joking about this when we had our We Shape Wellness weekend. I need a business card that says, Coach Tyler, teaching you to be more selfish.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I think the reality is people hear that word and they think it's such a negative thing.
Oh, yeah.
But the problem with it is that if I don't take care of me, I can't take care of you. And I think some people don't realize this, but if I do something for you and I'm burned out, underneath that is obligation and resentment. And so I'm hurting me. That's pretty easy to see, even though we continue to do it. But what they don't see is I'm hurting you because I'm creating future tension because I'm not living authentically. You had an expectation that I was doing that out of the goodness of my heart when I was doing it out of obligation and resentment. That's coming up in the future.
Yes,
I promise.
it is.
That is coming back. You don't do this for me and you don't do this for me. Whenever anybody says that to you, you know what they're really saying?
I did all this.
And I don't do this for me.
Exactly.
I don't do this for me. And so I just want to remind you, make yourself first. You got a checklist this holiday season. Maybe it's got a bunch of different things, shopping and cooking and setting up things for everything like that. At the very top of that checklist, say me time.
Me time. Self-care.
Whatever that is.
Whatever
Self-care.
it looks like.
Take a nap, get a massage, go for a walk, do a workout, stretch your body, do some breathing, call a friend, read a book, right? There's a million things you can do to fill your cup and feel whole. And if you do that, and it's start small, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes maybe. That may be a stretch. 10 minutes can be something that everybody should be able to do. Before you start your checklist, make that the entry. Make that the price of entry, that I'm going to do something for myself for just 10 minutes to take care of my body, my mind, and my soul.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you do that, you're not going to be pouring from an empty cup.
No.
You're going to be pouring from a cup that's full. And then all that giving is authentic, which means it's not going to come out later. You're not going to be like, I did this for you, so you should do this for me, right?
And then that goes right back to the obligation. I want you to imagine, we did this, I did this on my social media, we did this on the We Shape page once, and then I did it at a speaking engagement, and I think it's a beautiful depiction of what real self-care, consistent, loving self-care looks like, and how it aids everyone around you. The more full you are, the better, other people get filled around you. And when we were here for the We Shape Wellness Weekend, one of our members mentioned it. They said, I love that post. And I was like, that's one of the things that's resonated with me. So if you're visual, I want you to imagine that you have a large pitcher of water, or you have an unlimited supply of water coming from your sink. It doesn't stop. That water represents the walk, the calling a friend, the workout, the massage, the stretch, all the things that you have access to, because self-care is unlimited. It's free, or it could cost money. It can require just you or other people, but there's so many opportunities for self-care. So that's your water source. You are a large cup. Okay? What most of us do is we go to our source and we fill halfway, 3/4. We might even fill all the way up. We might be completely full. And then we have 4 or 5 small cups. And those are our kids, our businesses, all the things in the community, our church, things that we do. And we'll take our nice full cup and we'll go pour a little bit into all of those small cups. And then we're completely empty again. And then we're racing back to go get filled again. And that process in and of itself is exhausting and draining. That's what most people do when they're like, oh, I'm going to go on vacation this weekend. Oh, I got a massage next week. They're living for the next time they can squeeze in self-care.
It's like trying to create balance on a seesaw by running from one side to the other.
By running from one side to the other. That's how I would say 90% of us operate. So my vision for self-care and how I try to implement it in my life, not perfect at it by any means, but it is the end goal and it's what I strive for daily. I arrange myself, exactly what Tyler said. Put myself first. Put yourself first. I set my large cup right on top of those small cups because I'm the one that's going to pour into them. And then I get right up under my source because I sprinkle self-care into every aspect of my day. If it's a morning stretch, a charcuterie board for lunch, so to romanticize my life. If it's 10 deep breaths on the deck before I go pick the kids up from school. If it's hugging and embracing my kids and spending time with them. I do it all day long so that water is running into my cup and I am overflowing. So now all that's spilling out of me is pouring into all of the cups below me. And I never have to run back and forth and wait till the next massage and wait till the next vacation and wait till the next weekend because I'm filling myself every single day, all day. And everybody around me, up under me, is benefiting because I'm overflowing. Naturally, I give. Naturally, I give when I'm full. That's just how it is. I don't have room for it. So here's some for you, here's some for you, here's some for you. So that is the way that I like to see self-care. And for me, that's a visual reminder of exactly what Tyler just said, putting yourself first. Yeah. When you put yourself first all the time, as often as possible, you're overflowing and you have so much to give other people and the people that rely on you. So take that into your holidays. I know it's a busy time of year and it can seem really hard, but that's because we're grasping at big chunks of self-care that look like spending thousands of dollars and getting massages and manicures and pedicures. That is not the symbol of self-care. Yeah. It's the daily, little, simple, easy 5-second, 10-second, 30-second things. So that's what I want you to try to lean into if you can. Well, I know that you can, but if you're ready, for it, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Pour some of that charcuterie board over here.
Yes.
That sounds good.
I love a charcuterie.
I've never made myself something like that for lunch. That
little
sounds
ones,
good.
It's just some fruit, some cheese, some crack, stuff you eat anyway. Little trail mix.
Little trail mix. Little beef jerky.
Little beef
some
jerky.
Sliced up meat. Yeah.
I do some turkey pepperoni, and I will just eat it and enjoy it, and it's just relaxing and enjoyable because I'm doing something cute and beautiful for I created something for me, not just when my friends come over, right? So treating yourself like you would treat your very best friend. Yeah.
And this dovetails me right into the next thing, which is, we want to put ourselves first, but there's a huge propensity for overwhelm.
Yeah.
For I got all this ambition of all the things I'm going to do. And the message I really want to go through here is slow down.
Slow down.
It's okay to move slower. It's okay to not get everything on that checklist done. It's okay to not do all of the same things this holiday season that you're used to doing, right? I think about that movie like Christmas with the Cranks, right? Where he's like boycotting the holidays. And then I look at everything they were doing as a family every single year. I'm like, oh my God, there's so much stuff there, right?
Yeah.
You got to take the picture and then send out the holiday cards. And you got to have this party. And then you got to go to this party. You got to bake these goods for this event. And you got to do this thing at church and this thing at work. And this
obligations.
Yeah, it's obligations, right? And something I've heard you say a lot, which I really love, is when you say yes to you, it means you have to say no to something else. So what could be really helpful for you this holiday season is before you even drop in, or maybe in the next week or so, like maybe write out the things that you do, right? Like here's all the things I normally do over the holidays. And then you could take that list, and I want you to start at the top and say, what's the number one most important thing on this list to me? And put it at the very top. Then look at the list and say, what's the number one least important thing on this list to me? And put it at the bottom. And just go back and forth like that. That's a great way to sort a list because it gets your brain swinging from both sides. It's pretty easy to see which ones you don't want to do and maybe like the ones that you really want to do. And then when you look at this, prioritize the top ones. I don't know how many you have on your list, but don't prioritize the whole list because it's going to make you go crazy. You're not slowing down. You're pushing super hard. Prioritize the top ones and maybe consider what it would look like to get rid of the bottom ones. And then, if you need to, develop a strategy on how you're going to approach getting rid of those bottom ones.
Yeah.
So like another great example, we keep going back to this We Shape Wellness Weekend because it was such a great event, but one of our attendees said that they volunteer over and over on all these different things. And we're saying when they got home, I got to say no to these things, but I feel like I'm already like committed to it. And the suggestion I gave was you can keep it really simple. Hey, I know I've done this in previous years, but this year I've got too much on my plate and I'm so sorry I can't do it. And then here's the kicker. When they say, oh, but every year you bake the snickerdoodles for the church and whatever, all you got to do is say, yeah, look, I know I bake those snickerdoodles every year, but I got too much on my plate and I can't do it this year. And no matter what their reasoning is, you don't have to change your statement. I learned this one the hard way, right? Like I'm doing mental gymnastics every time I'm trying to justify my actions, and you don't have to do that.
You don't.
I learned this from somebody else. It was a brilliant thing. She's like, just say the same thing over and over again. What's funny is if we pivot our arguments, they pivot theirs. If we keep our argument the same, they'll pivot once or twice, and then they'll realize, oh, this is a boundary. This is a boundary. There's not a negotiation happening here. They've made up their mind. If you change your argument, it's perceived as a negotiation.
Yeah.
Right?
1,000%.
Yeah. So don't make it complicated. Make it simple. And so what I mean is those bottom ones, write a sentence out of what you might have to say, or send in an email or text or whatever it may be. And that way you know if that thing has to get off the list, you're good. You don't have to stress about it in the moment. You just grab that phrase, you do it. You'll still feel nervous. It'll still be challenging, but you got yourself prepared in advance.
Yeah, that's called advocating for yourself.
What?
Yeah.
Are we teaching people to advocate for themselves? Oh my God.
That is called advocating for yourself and your well-being and your mental health and your physical health, and understanding that we can only do so much.
Yeah.
You know, and it is stressful to overcommit, right? I understand a sense of guilt that goes along with that. I agreed to do this, and you know me, if I finish it, if I start it, I like to finish it. But there are times when I have to just bow out. You know, one of the biggest steps for me in learning that and putting it into practice came, I run my own business, and there was a day, there's been many days, but there was one day in particular, I can't recall what was happening, but I feel like it had a lot to do with marital stress and or recent loss. I'm pretty sure it was recent loss. I think I had just lost my mother. And I get very robotic with things. Like, I express my emotions, but I feel like, okay, this still has to get done, so I just have to plow through it.
I don't know anybody like that.
Yeah. And I just remember having one day, I just woke up and I couldn't get the tears to stop flowing.
I gotta be productive. Why are you here?
I couldn't organize my thoughts, and I had to make the call of canceling my patients for the day. And as a small business owner,
it's hard.
With 3 kids, like the thought of like missing out on money, letting my patients down, being perceived as unprofessional, there's an ugly narrative, in my head from my inner critic that's like, see, you shouldn't even be running a business. You don't even have enough support. You don't know what you're doing. And it's like, but I had to fight through that and cancel my day. And that was sort of that was a big step. I was going to say baby step, but that was one of the bigger steps for me in caring for myself first, putting myself first above the money, above the perceived issues with my reputation, above what my patients needed. Because I'm a giver. I'm a healthcare provider. I don't want to, take something away from people who I know need me, but I couldn't show up. I couldn't, not even as my best self. I don't think I could have shown up as the mediocre version of me, because I was so much turmoil emotionally, and it just wasn't worth it. It just wasn't worth showing up. So I've only done that a handful of times, but I remember the first time, and I remember feeling like, oh, this is tough. Like, I shouldn't do this, but I did it.
Yeah, it's just, it's not creating enough space for that. And then it just builds and builds and builds until it's not really your choice anymore. Right. Like, you got to face it.
You got to face it.
And don't let that happen over the holidays, right? Go slow.
Go slow. Take your time.
Give yourself space. Yeah.
Anticipate the busyness and the stress. Don't overschedule yourself, overbook yourself,
I was just going to say that
yourself.
one thing that Taylor Ashley, our body acceptance coach, talked a lot about was your checklist, right? And I'm a checklist person too. And I loved her answer to someone, which was, hey, you got a checklist. It's 10 things, 15 things, whatever it is. You get 3 things. You get 3 must-dos on your checklist. And that's great, because first of all, that teaches us to prioritize the things that are most important. Because I don't know about you, if I have a checklist of like 15 things, I'm going to try to hit like the 5 or 6 that are the easiest to get done, so I can feel like I'm checking more stuff off. But really, they're not the most important things, right?
Oh my God, that's my strategy all the time.
So get those 3 at the top, my must-dos. And then after that, everything single else is would like to do.
And
get those 3 must-dos done. then do the would like to do's. If there's other stuff that carries over to the next day, either move it into that must do or keep it in that would like to do.
Exactly.
You know?
Or you might realize you can omit it from the list completely.
Or you're like, wait, this wasn't even worth my time. Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes you're not going to get through your 3 must do's, especially if you're very ambitious with them, you know?
Yeah.
So be mindful of that as well and leave some space for yourself and some compassion. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about the last thief of the holidays that I want to talk about here. And that is people have so much shame and guilt and self-judgment over the holidays because they're trying to enjoy themselves, right? You go to this place and you tell yourself, okay, I'm only going to have 1 cookie when I'm there. And you go there and you eat 5 cookies and you go home and you just start being really mean to yourself. The inner critic comes out and see you got no discipline. You're nothing but a fat slob and blah, 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 right? And I think that this is so damaging for us to set these expectations on ourselves, for us to then allow us to abuse ourselves, and then for us to change the experience of ourselves. It becomes our identity, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want the holidays to be a time when you create that type of inner dialogue that harms you in that kind of way. And so, maybe you could speak to this. I know that this is something you've thought a lot about, but when somebody's coming into those holiday meals and those holiday desserts and stuff, how do we get people to like enjoy the holidays?
Yeah. Well, I think the first step is letting go of the diet culture mentality, because if you're heavily engulfed in diet culture, you're going to see this one way. One of 2 ways. You're either going to see this as an opportunity for you to binge out and go crazy because you probably restrict yourself from all of these wonderful goodies all year round. And you probably take this time of year to be like, I'm going hard, I'm going to enjoy it, I'm going to eat everything I want. And then on the new year, I'm going to get it together. That is very problematic thinking because, one, anytime we restrict, it's going to breed binging. So this binging is not going to be something that just happens at the holidays. It's going to happen multiple times. And binging is not a way, first of all, you don't even get to enjoy the food when you binge it. You're just shoveling it in. Yeah. You're not in touch with your fullness cues, your hunger cues. You probably don't even know which dessert you like the most because you're really at just that point often just looking for and craving the sugar and the rush that you get and the excitement because you don't allow yourself to have this. So that's not an approach. The other approach that I see people take with this is, okay, I got to maintain, my diet. So I'm just going to deprive myself all holidays. I'm going to eat before I go out to events. I'm going to, bring a low calorie dessert to have. And then you rob yourself of the opportunity of the connection and the joy associated with that food and, grandma's peach cobbler or whatever it is that means something to you deeper than just the taste. So again, not an approach that I suggest. I really want people to let go of this mindset that sweets are bad, that there are good foods and bad foods, that, you have to eat a certain way to be a certain way, and really start to embrace the idea of more of an intuitive approach to eating and more about a variety. Thinking about offering myself all kinds of foods all the time and being open to having them and trying them and listening to how my body is responding so that we're making the decisions that make sense for us. And so we can say, gosh, dairy has been awful for me, but I really want this ice cream, so I'm going to eat it this time and just know tomorrow's going to be tough. Or dairy has been kicking my ass lately, so I'm not going to have this ice cream even though I know it's delicious. But you make that decision autonomously. Consciously. And it's yours and you own it and you're going to enjoy this time of year when you have access to all these things. And most of the things, when you have a really healthy relationship with food, there could be a smorgasbord across this table and you're really only going to get what you want because there's no last meal feast situation, let me go, last supper, I'm never gonna eat again, let me try everything.
January 1st is coming, I'm not gonna be able to have any of this stuff.
It's like you won't even approach it that way because it won't serve you and it won't feel good because at the end of the day you care for yourself and you know what your body likes, what it needs, what it wants. You understand and appreciate and respect your cravings and you offer the things that you're craving to yourself, and you're more mindful and more consistent in how you show up for yourself as it relates to eating. So if you can, this is probably heavy lifting for next week, right? But if you can start to let go of that diet culture mentality and this feast or famine situation and find a way to settle in the middle, in the gray, and understanding you have unlimited access to any foods that you want, and also you know how to tune into your body to decide what it wants and needs at any given point.
Yeah.
So
I think that what I want to highlight in that I think is important is that restriction breeds that binging.
Always.
Right? I know this far too well in my own life. When we restrict, and it's psychological, it's the beliefs, it's the rules, it's the language that we use in our minds that makes us go, well, I'm not going to have anything, I'm not going to have anything. Boom, swings the other way and goes super big, right? And, this isn't your fault. This is survival mechanism. This is like I'm out in the wild. I haven't found any food for a while, and I see a tree with some berries on it. I eat all the berries. That's because that's how we're supposed to survive. And so you're creating this feast-famine environment in your own life with your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions. And if we just give ourselves a little bit more of the middle, then all of a sudden these giant swings start to go away. And it's these giant swings that are really the unhealthy thing that we shouldn't be doing as much of, right? And the other piece of this is that, we've given you a bunch of strategies to deal with the stress, right? Choice and setting boundaries, making yourself first. And what's really interesting about showing up for yourself is then when you go to have a cookie, you have a cookie because you want to have a cookie. And you don't have a cookie because Uncle Steve was really mean to you and you're feeling traumatized and you need to do something about it to make you feel better, right? And I do want to be clear, there's nothing wrong with the cookie being that thing that you do if you're feeling traumatized to make you feel better. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no bad choices here. But wouldn't it feel better if you could just have the damn cookie because you want to eat the cookie and you weren't doing it because you were trying to comfort yourself, right?
Absolutely. Emotionally. That's, emotional eating. I think this is a point to say that eating can and in many ways should be emotional. It just shouldn't be, or hopefully won't be, your only coping mechanism.
Your only coping
That's the problem. When we lean into it for all of our emotions, it makes sense that, I say this all the time. I make my grandma's mac and cheese because it reminds me of her. Yes, it tastes good. Yes, we love it. But when I make it, I feel connected to her. It is a very emotional thing to eat and to make that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's beauty in that. And it's healthy to do that. But it shouldn't be, I miss my grandma, so every single day I'm going to make this mac and cheese. So it's really just about giving yourself multiple tools to manage your emotions and manage what's going on inside of you so that you don't always look and lean to food. But respecting and accepting that food should be a joy-filled experience. It should be something that tastes good, that feels good to you. Sometimes it won't be, right? Sometimes we're eating to nourish ourselves because we got stuff to do and we got to go. But as often as possible, I want food to be a positive, filling, warm, loving experience. And the holidays is just a great example of when that can happen more frequently. So don't demonize yourself and reprimand yourself for enjoying this time and for maybe even overindulging. The beauty in that is it's data, right? So I went to Thanksgiving and it was so good. I was just busy talking and laughing and bonding with family, and I look up and I'm like, oh God, I'm over full. Like, it happens, and that's the data that we need. So maybe the next day you adjust a little bit because you went overboard the day before, but there's no shame in that. There's no blame in that. It doesn't have to be an ugly experience. It can still be filled with love and self-compassion. And then also, for the love of God, don't take all of your food stuff, because we all have it, right? And I'm not shaming anyone for having it, but don't take all of your food shame and all that icky stuff and put it on other people. Let the people who have made some strides in their relationship with food enjoy their food. Don't do that. Like, ooh, if you eat that, you're going to have to work out. You got to walk around. Oh, we just ate, guys. Let's get up and go. We got to burn this up. Like, don't do that. That's my one tip. If you are in that space still, I get it. I lived there. I am not judging you. But don't put that stuff on other people. And please don't put it on these kids, because that's the last thing I want to hear is my child saying, oh, I can't have that second piece of pie, Mommy, because it's too many calories, or I got to go for a run. Now, don't do that. So if you're struggling with it, I respect you. I understand. But don't put that on other people. This is your journey, your process. Figure it out. But try to hold that in here. Please and thank you.
I love it. I got one last thing I want to touch on here. And I want you to be smart about this. Don't go behind your partner's back. Don't spend money you don't have. That's not what I'm talking about here. But I think that most of the people who are listening are probably thoughtful people. You probably wouldn't make it this far if you weren't a thoughtful person, if you weren't trying to be better and be more conscious and grow. And so I'll bet anything that you give people some good gifts. You probably think about others, and you probably really think about the experience you want them to have when you give them a gift, and you probably really show up for that. Mm-hmm. And I would love to challenge everybody who's listening to this to ask themselves the question, what's one thing I want to get myself? What's one thing I want to get myself? And don't just buy it for yourself. Wrap it. Put it under the tree.
Yes.
And say, to me, from me.
From me, yeah.
To me, from me.
That's single mom life. I do
Open that thing on Christmas.
I do
and
that.
Put a big smile on your face and enjoy it. Maybe it's an experience or a service, like go get your nails done or get a massage or whatever feels good. Maybe it's something that you've wanted that you don't really want to ask for. Maybe it's something small too, right? It doesn't have to be big.
It doesn't have to be.
The whole gesture I'm trying to get here is that you're important too.
You are important.
You are worth it too.
Yeah.
And so take that same energy that you focus on others with and give a little bit to yourself.
Put yourself at the top of your gift list. I love that. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, good luck this holidays, everyone. Hopefully this episode got you some valuable information that will help you get through it in a different way this year.
Yeah. Enjoy.